This is Jamie Drummond for Good Food Revolution. This evening, we are joined by two gentlemen all the way from the Mclaren Vale in Australia. From Mitolo, we have Aaron and Luke. Aaron, you're in charge of sales and marketing. And Luke, you take care of the winemaking. How are you both today, gentlemen?
Well, thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Brilliant. For those people unfamiliar with Mitolo, and I'm not sure anybody who is unfamiliar, however, there may be some souls out there who are not, tell us a little bit about the history of Mitolo.
So Mitolo was founded by Frank Mitolo, our founder, in 1999. Frank's of Italian descent. His grandfather was a viticulturalist in Abruzzo, in a little town called Sulmona in the Aquila province in Abruzzo. His father migrated after the war in Australia in the 50s, and he's 14-year-old, and established his own farming business here. So farming and viticulture is very much in Frank's vein, so to speak. Launched the brand in 1989, specialising in Shiraz, and that's what we're most well known for, particularly in your market.
Yes.
And then over the last 20 years, really branched out into alternative varieties as well. So we now make 17 different wines, and while we specialise in Shiraz, there's a big focus, particularly domestically, on varieties such as Sangiovese and Vermentino and the like.
Well, the Mclaren Vale, with its many varied soils and terroirs, is suitable for some very successful growth of a vast breadth of grape varieties, has to be said. I was amazed the last time I was there, some 11 years ago now. I couldn't believe the varied spectrum of the wines from the region. Now, Luke, you're a relative newcomer to the company. You joined last year, I believe. Where were you before you joined with Mitolo?
So I was still working with Mclaren Vale wines through the Rosemount brand. I was with Treasury Wine Estates for quite a few years, and that really inspired me and I guess fueled my passion for the region. And then this opportunity came up to do something which had a lot of passionate people and drive behind it, and some very exciting wines.
Now, it's a very kind of cliched question, but if you were to encapsulate the philosophy of Mitolo in a few sentences, what would that be? I'll ask both of you this question.
I think one of the strong mottos that we live by is Forte e Gentil, which from the Abruzzo region means strong and gentle. So Luke can talk more to the wines, but if you look at the people within the business and then the style of the wines, and they are powerful wines, they're concentrated, particularly from our southerly location, but then there's a softness and approachability to the wine. So I think that's probably a key tagline for our brand.
Absolutely, and I think from the viticultural and winemaking perspective, as Aaron said, we do have that southern aspect of the Vale, which tends to get more sunlight and more concentration in the flavours. But we pick, we grow, we pick, we handle, we macerate and make the wine appropriately to the style that we're after, which is respecting that strength and power, but guiding it into that silky and approachable, particularly the tannin handling, the way we handle our ferments to get that silky tannin and beautiful wine. And also, I think the purity of fruit and vibrancy that comes through in a lot of the wines is very evident of our approach.
Well, today we're going to be looking at the Mitolo Jester 2018. This is, you mentioned other varieties outside of Shiraz. You have another one of the region's signature varieties, Cabernet Sauvignon. For you, Luke, what typifies a classic Mclaren Vale Cabernet Sauvignon?
I think, Mclaren Vale's region is often talked about as being the mid-palate of Australia. And I think in the Cabernet, that's very evident. They're wines with a lovely plushness. They do have that, nice silky tannin in them. This Cabernet in particular, for me, has always been very varietally expressive. It's got lots of that blackcurrant and, red berries and very nice savoury structure without being, too tannic or anything like that. I think it really punches above its weight.
Is the fruit sourced from all over Mclaren Vale in the example of this wine here, or is it from a more specific clime?
So these, both these wines are from the southern end of Mclaren Vale. The Cabernet is from two vineyards in the Whites Valley area. We have some different row orientations, which give us some slightly different expressions, and some different soil types there as well. We have a north-south rows on dark bisky soil, which gives us a lot of depth and concentration. And then we have east-west rows on more of a brown clay loam, which tends to show more fruit aromatics and a little bit more sort of red berry expression.
I'm rather amazed at the smoothness of the tannins in this wine, especially with it being 2018. If you wouldn't mind, could you go into a little bit of depth about the vinification behind this particular wine?
Sure. So we pick and crush into stem at the winery, and we generally keep our temperatures relatively low, particularly with Cabernet. That helps to avoid any over extraction of tannin, and also improves allows the vibrancy of the fruit to express itself. Usually just working with pump overs for cap maceration. That tends to be a very more gentle, more plush, more silky way of extracting colour and tannin into the wine. And we then, generally speaking, with these ones, we'll put them to a mix of neutral seasoned French and American oak for maturations. So again, not a lot of new oak influence here, just really letting the fruit show itself.
What secrets can you tell me about the tannin management with this? Because this is gorgeous. This is the way that you've got these super ripe Mclaren Vale tannins, but without too much astringency. It really is quite glorious.
Mm. Well, it definitely starts with getting it right in the vineyard. You have to pick at the right moment. So, I mean, personally, this is my first vintage, but I'm spending a lot of time in the vineyards making sure I get that right. And I'm sure that Ben has done that in the past as well. So that's where it starts. You have to have your tannins at the correct ripeness when you pick. There's no getting around that. And then again, it's just respecting the wines and the fruit in the winery, knowing that there is a lot of power and depth there. So there's no secret to it. It's just about taking a strong yet gentle approach, really.
I haven't tasted this wine for a couple of years, and I have to say it's showing rather well. I noticed, and this would be a question for you, Aaron. The labeling has changed over the years, has it not?
It has. Yeah, we shifted to this label from the 2014 vintage, probably letting a little cat out of the.
Would I be mistaken in thinking it was a slightly creepier Jester that was on the label previously?
It did. It had each of the different. We make 6 different Jester wines, and each one had a different Jester. That was from the 2014 vintage, and letting a little cat out of the bag. We're going through a major rebrand across the whole Mitolo portfolio over the next 6 to 12 months, and a new label will be rolling into market. Particularly in Canada in probably 12 months' time. So, but yes, it's a bit more of a refined logo, probably moving away from probably the critter mentality that some Australian wines have been known for back in the day. But yes, it's a bit more of a refined kind of Jester hat / crown.
Sorry, I realized that came out badly when I said it was a kind of creepier Jester incarnation. But it did give me the creeps a little bit. This is much more refined for sure. And will this be across the entire range? The labeling will be changing?
It will, yeah. So all the Jesters will have their own distinct label, and then across the Mitolo range as well, it'll be one succinct label, as well as one bottle as well for the 2 different tiers within the portfolio.
So Aaron, you have been in an ambassadorial role for Mitolo. In your time traveling with these wines, what is the best kind of food pairing that you've seen with the Cabernet Sauvignon Jester?
I think for us, there's always a bit of an Italian connection that links back to how we look to pair food, and we have our own restaurant in Mclaren Vale as well, which specialises in Italian. these types of foods obviously, really kind of go very well with, with red meats and the like. We would always look to pair this with something like an ossobuco, something like that. It's a rich dish that can stand up to the power and depth and concentration of the flavours in the wine.
On a closing note, we're still sort of edging out of this pandemic. How did the COVID pandemic impact things at Mitolo over the last 2 years?
Yeah, it's been an interesting last 24 months for our business. It's hasn't probably affected us in the same way that it may have affected lots of others. We're very fortunate that we've got really widespread distribution. Obviously, Canada is a really important market for us, as is the USA and in North America. But we also export throughout Europe and Southeast Asia, as well as domestically. So it's been a bit of a challenge. We've also had some constraints in what we can ship to markets such as China, which has impacted the Australian industry quite a bit. But yeah, we've navigated it well. We've invested a lot in our brand over the last 12 to 24 months, as you'll see as it rolls out in the next 12 months. A big pivot for us as a brand too is premiumisation, respecting the quality of wine that we produce and continually promoting the upper echelon of what we can make. And I think a big change as well over the last 6 to 12 months is Luke coming into the business as well, and of course, and having him looking forward to having him in market with me over the next few months as well.
Mm.
And this is your first vintage you're in right now, Luke. How is that looking right now?
Yeah, my first vintage with Mitolo. It's been great. As I said, I spent a lot of time in the vineyards, and that's really key for me. I think you have to really know your vineyards to do a good job. At the end of the day, what you get off the vine is the maximum potential that you can create in the wine. So getting that right, and the boys down at the vineyards are fantastic to work with. So it's always good fun catching up with them a couple of times a week. Every day in the winery again, watching wines and making decisions on how best to guide them to where we want them to be. It's definitely exciting. We've gotten through all of our Shiraz and just about to press off our last Cabernet now.
All right.
And a lot of the alternative varieties are coming in. So we've got Sangiovese and Nerodivola coming in this week. Looking for Sagrantino and Montepulciano next week. I'll drop down to vineyards again tomorrow and have another look to really pinpoint the appropriate picking day. And then a lot of stuff's going.
We've got a little bit of might be interesting for you, Jamie. We're going to have Mclaren Vale's first plantings of Pecorino as well.
Yep.
It's hanging on for dear life at the moment. It's full of assets. It's the first vintage of it, so we likely won't do much with it this year. But that's something that we're quite excited about.
Yeah, get in and have a play and see what it does.
So, I suppose that's probably a clear message is, while we specialise in this, you can see there's a lot of smaller batch Italian varieties that we're working with. And as you mentioned at the start of this conversation, it's we're starting to realise that those varieties, those drought-tolerant varieties, are very well suited, particularly to our southerly location that's quite dry, low rainfall, particularly through the summer. It's an exciting time for us.
Mm.
I guess I should, since you mentioned your climate down there, are you seeing any impacts of climate change upon your vineyards right now? And if you are you seeing some varieties that are more suited to a warmer climate?
I think we talked about that. I mean, I've talked about this from a general perspective over my career. Definitely there's an impact of climate change. There always has been. I noticed that, way back in the mid-2000s when, your average start of picking was shifted forward by about a month. There was almost a step change around 2004. And I think Mclaren Vale has been very smart and one of the early uptakers of looking at alternative varieties that will perform better in a changing climate. But having said that, there's a lot of advantages to the region that give it security in that regard. Water sourcing is a key thing. So Mclaren Vale has access to a large volume of reclaimed water that actually comes out of the Adelaide city. It's a big sustainability project that was put on by the government, and growers have access to that down there, as do we. And I think that's a really, really good thing. And fundamentally within the region, you've got some influences from just the geography and the topography. You know, the Gulf St Vincent is a large body of water that supplies a cooling influence to the heat of summer, as well as the range that runs along the back actually gets some cooling air coming over from a big body of water on the eastern side, like Alexandrina, that helps to moderate the heat of summer as well. So it's kind of a win-win. You know, we've got water to work with that we can judiciously apply, but we've also got some tempering influences on the climate.
I know the Gulf of St Vincent quite well because 11 years ago, I was down there and was hauled onto a fishing boat and tried to catch something. I had a bit of a hangover, didn't catch a thing, and got really bad seasickness. So I know it well.
Sounds like my fishing.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us at Good Food Revolution. Aaron, I know you're planning to come over to Toronto in June, all things going well. Luke, hopefully at some point we'll have a chance to host you over here. But all the best with the harvest. And gentlemen, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Bye for now.